Hi, and good evening. I'd like to welcome you to Palm Praise 2, and I hope that peace and blessings have been upon you and your family this day. Now, we are going to get right back into the Black Woman's Guide to Understanding the Black Man. We are now in Chapter 6, which is employment. The take for this chapter is 26. And I'm going to give you a little prelude from take 25 just to lead up to what we're about to talk about. And it goes like this. So today, black men try to make it perfectly clear that they don't think they're better than anybody else. They recite, I don't think I'm better than anybody else. I think I'm just as good as any other man. I'm not superior, but I'm not inferior either. I just want to be equal. I'm not any different from any other man. I'm not trying to say that I'm better, but I'm just as good. Imagine the frustration they must feel from wanting to vocalize and act out their superiority, but must stifle these claims because of his status. The only arena in which they are encouraged to demonstrate their superiority is in the ability to play sports. In practically every other encounter in their life, they are provoked in one way or another because of the standard rules pitted against them, to agree with or claim their own inferiority. The source of this pain is rooted in every aspect of his daily life, and it is a pain that he doesn't think he can do anything about. This often, happens to him when applying for a job or when he is on the job. His lack of vocational skills invoke the terminology of being referred to as the hardcore unemployed. And certainly there are black men qualified in many skills who also cannot find work in the system that compensates them enough to survive. He approaches a workplace to apply for a job with understandable apprehension. He has been told, hinted to, show or deduces on his own that a black man, he is going to have a hard time convincing a white personnel clerk that he can do a job and deserves to have it. He already knows that the complications of this interaction expands the further of the job rung he climbs. He knows he is talked to differently, spoken to in a different tone, given special regulations, or earns a lower pay. There are no controls to manipulate the internal workings of every job site in America. And much of what he views is degrading, and he is very sensitive on this. It hits on his ego so negativity that sometimes he would rather not work at all. So when forced to choose between doing a certain kind of work or living in poverty, the job does not rise as the lesser of the two evils. This often occurs on low-paying or high-paying jobs. After being introduced through this kind of ego agony, he has to compensate himself in some way. He can either find a way around the problem give up as an explained above or rationalized to himself that he didn't want the job anyway. The latter choice is often visibly manifested in his physical posture. He walks with a swanky gait. He walks like he's strutting. He walks in some exaggerated, way that reminds him on taking every step that he is somebody special, either powerfully strong, beautifully handsome, or daringly antagonistic. The special way of walking attributed to him is very important to his mental state of mind, especially his tender to the touch ego. As a black man develops confidence from achievement, acceptance, or recognition, his gait returns to a more normal stance, and he gives little thought to the slant of his body or his foot cadence when walking. This also applies to what he does with his hands or his arms. Interesting. Motivation to work is best stimulated by a knowledge of the results. The only knowledge that most black men have about the results of working is that it will help them pay their bills, dress, and have a good time. The good time may just be his ability to buy any material items he desires. This is not the right incentive for him to use to go to work, but the black man has little knowledge or familiarity with the good feeling that comes with providing goods and services for his own consumption. He has no recollection of a time when he was not dependent upon someone else in authority over him to help him provide for him. He isn't versed in being in charge of his own destiny based on being self-sufficient or able to rely on his own abilities to supply the things he needs to survive. His lack of knowledge about the thrill of independence began about 75 years ago when he determined the only way to absorb himself into the white America and match their quality of life was to pursue legal means of accountability through the courts. While involved with the failures inherent in that system, his already temperamental ego flared, his emotions jumped in, and he took to trying to shame the government and inspire enough pity from the masses to give him psychological freedom and tangible donations. Remember now, at that time, he was already declared physically free. And although Europeans were over 300 years ahead of him in business and industry, he should have begun where he was and started to work for financial independence. He could have done this because studies reveal that he actually discovered much of the machinery and technology the Europeans use to speed their economy. Had he done that, he would control enough goods and services to write his own ticket and eliminate calling on the white man every time he wanted to do something. He should have done this. But can he now? Shoulda, coulda, woulda, but he didn't. But can he now? A black man, can you? Now? Woulda, coulda, and shoulda. Wow, I didn't even read that, but I just said it. Hey, All right, let's keep on reading. Would've, could've, and should've, which is as far as the black man gets in solving his economic burdens. It's conceivable that he was so traumatized by his recent enslavement that he was desperate for an immediate fix, and the court seemed the shortest route. He was as wrong when he was as wrong then as he is now, but his pattern of searching for legal remedy remains. The point of these comparisons between a long time ago, the 60s, and the current times is to reveal the black man's pattern of technique he uses to try to get what he wants. Freeing the body and freeing the mind are two completely different motions. It's not fair to change the black man across the board without being lazy and refusing to work. But he is sometimes known for invoking creative ways to avoid physical labor. The black man will, 1, say that he can't find a job which pays enough to be worthwhile. 2, pretend to be injured under workman's comp. Malingering such as a bad back, serious headaches, dizzy spells, or poor vision. 3, playing crazy to get unlimited free drugs and sympathy. 4, never move out of his parents' house, usually his mother, and lets her continue to support and take care of him. 5, become a so-called professional student, stay in school or some type of training, changing his field of study, all to avoid executing a plan for day-to-day survival by working. 6, becoming an alcoholic or drug addict to avoid dealing with reality, period. It's perfectly understandable that after the black man's release from slavery, the last thing he wanted to do was go back to work again. Another reason black men have problem working on a job is that it may sometimes be difficult for him to understand what he is supposed to do. He may lapse on his ability to understand certain technologies, experience discomfort at being directly given an order, because he realizes immediately that he doesn't know how to do it. Black men do not always know how to mentally separate the steps of action required to complete a task. The savaging of his intellect has already been addressed in a chapter discussing his learning disabilities. But another aspect to be considered is that the lack of self-worth and repression of his real nature causes him to feel so immaculate that he freezes mentally. This added to his unnatural inclination to not want anybody to tell him what to do makes it appear as if he is naturally hostile or slow-witted. But he is a man who all his life has been told, directed, or forced to obey other people. Black men in business say that it is extremely difficult for a black man to get another black man to work with the same attentiveness and level of energy that they smilingly, smilingly, deliver to a white male or white female boss. We're going to leave it right there for take number 26. Be blessed. Stay tuned. Peace to you from Poem Praise 2, and peace be upon you. We'll talk with you later. Till then, be blessed. Later, y'all.